This video is sponsored by Brilliant. Be one of the first 200 people to sign up at the link below to get 20% off your annual premium Brilliant subscription. When I think about being productive, I often think about a concept that's usually talked about in the realm of video games. Actions per minute, or APM as a lot of people like to say. In real-time strategy games, in MOBAs, and in other games like Don't Starve, every second counts, and learning how to move and act as quickly as possible can mean the difference between victory and defeat, between, well, starving and not starving. In other words, move fast or get left behind. But the sheer volume of actions you can perform is only half the battle. If there's no plan behind those actions, no greater vision ensuring that each movement is the right one, then, well, you're just wasting energy. Or possibly even worse. So today we're gonna dig into how you can effectively plan and prioritize your work, both on the small scale, so you know how to best plan each workday, and on a larger scale, turning an eye towards the weeks and months ahead. Now, both of these are important to master in a general sense, but even more so when you're working from home and are much more responsible for how you manage your own time and energy. When all that management is on you, it's crucial that you're able to set the right priorities. Like, for example, should I have prioritized building an entirely new set for this video? Well, probably not. But hey, this is a learning space. You see this tastefully selected amp? You see this vintage camera from the antique store that doesn't actually work but really ties the set together? Yeah, this is a learning space, not a judging space, Derek. So let's start learning, and let's kick that off with how to properly plan your day. At the most basic level, I plan my day by creating what I call a daily list. Now, I do this on the whiteboard in my office, but you can do it basically anywhere. You can use a paper daily list or even rely on the due dates in your task manager. But whatever method you use, there are a few things that you should keep in mind when you're doing your planning. First, realize that the due dates in your task manager may not paint a perfect picture of what you should actually do today, or indeed what you can do today. Now, I say this because I know that I am guilty of continually allowing my intentions to eclipse my abilities. And if I don't stop myself, I will often write down way more tasks than I can realistically get done in any one given day. So try your best to keep this list limited to what you can actually do, and when you fail, and you will inevitably fail sometimes, make an observation of it so you can plan more accurately for the next day. And realize that it might actually take some time to get better at this, as our brains really aren't built for making accurate time estimates. In fact, researchers have found that people typically will give nearly the exact same answer when they're asked to give estimates for the best case scenario versus an average case scenario. Now, of course, by definition, the average case will always take more time than the best case. Like, if we're talking about driving to work, which is probably something that you don't actually have to do right now, but let's just use it as an example here. The best case would mean hitting every single green light. It would mean never encountering any traffic at all. And an average case wouldn't look like that at all, but naturally, we tend to conflate the two. Now, one thing that can help you plan more accurately is breaking down your tasks into small chunks and then scheduling those chunks. This strategy is called time boxing or time blocking. And to use it, you slot your tasks into small time blocks on your calendar. Now, this doesn't work well for everyone. Some people feel like it kind of boxes them in too much, makes them feel too much like cogs in a machine, but a lot of people do find that it helps them avoid procrastinating during the day. That's a big problem, especially when you work at home. I like to think about it this way. When you're planning your day, you are in planning mode. And once you start working, you move over into robot mode. And at that point, your job is simply to execute the plans that were made earlier. So the more accurate those plans are, the more likely you are to stick to them. Now, if you don't want to go the uber granular way of time boxing, I would suggest at least listing your day's tasks out in the order you're going to do them. And for most people, I think you would be best served by planning to do your most difficult or dreaded task first, especially when you're working at home. When you're at work, you can often procrastinate work a little bit by answering your emails or doing other little small tasks first, but eventually you're gonna run out of tiny things to do and you're gonna have to tackle that really big dreaded task. But at home, well, how do I put this? There's always something to clean. There's always something to organize. And honestly, I am not too proud to admit that I have literally convinced myself that I needed to hang a picture before starting a video script. And that is because, quite honestly, my robot mode is more like trained monkey mode. I am easily distracted by shiny things. So a strong, ordered plan always helps me to stay on task. With that said, let's get a bird's eye view and take a look at long-term planning. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, a high number of actions per minute only matters if those actions are guided by a strong game plan. And since most of your overall goals are long-term ones, you need to know how to look beyond your daily schedule and effectively plan for the weeks and months ahead. So here are just a few techniques for keeping track of things on a larger scale and even dealing with things that don't have strict due dates. First, I want to show you a great method for breaking down large projects into manageable pieces and then tracking their progress. It's called the Kanban method, and it's employed by teams everywhere around the world to get all sorts of huge projects done. At its core, Kanban uses cards and lists. Cards keep details about individual tasks, while the lists indicate the stages of the project. So as you work on tasks and move them to different stages, their respective cards get moved through the lists as well, so you always have an accurate bird's eye view of how things are going. Here's just one example of Kanban in action. This is our video project tracker, which we, of course, keep in Notion. Now, normally it's in list view, but I can also switch it into a Kanban view. And this lets me see which videos are being researched, which videos are in the writing stage, and which videos are being edited. And as each video progresses, it moves through each of these stages. So again, I can see where it is and what needs to be done next. For a more complicated example, let's take a look at the Trello board that we used for the website redesign we did a couple of years ago. Now, this was a huge project that had hundreds of tasks and tons of considerations: design, typography, code optimizations, SEO, you name it. So there was a lot more going on in its respective board. But the general idea was still the same. Cards moved through their lists as they got worked on, and we could always see the general state of the project. So that's just one technique that you can use to plan more effectively for your long-term projects. And of course, there are a lot more that we could talk about, but to keep this video short, I want to move on to the question of prioritization. How do you decide what to work on when you're looking at things on a larger timescale? Well, as it turns out, my friend Martin has a system for that. So let me just ring him up real quick. Oh, hey, Martin.
Oh, hey there.
So a couple of months ago, I made this video about something that I dubbed the Martin system, and people liked it. And as it turns out, you have yet another Martin system to share with us.
I do like making systems. It's basically my kitchen system of organizing my Todoist.
And how is this different than like the normal kind of category-based system that I have been using forever?
Yeah, so I had my Todoist set up like categories before. So you know I do a bunch of stuff. It's like podcast work, writing work, all sorts of extra different things, server stuff and programming. And what I found was that every single day I had to look through like 6 or 7 lists to figure out what I wanted to do that day, which was cumbersome. Eventually the list became full and I stopped wanting to look through them. So okay. I've switched it now. I've got 4 lists. Everything goes in regardless of category. And they're all based off of the kitchen metaphor of putting something on the back burner. So obviously one of the lists is the back burner. That's where everything goes when I'm not focusing on it. It's not important right now. It might be at some point, but I shouldn't be doing it today. And to complement that, I created 3 lists, one of which is vitamins. You know, every day you take your vitamins. So this is stuff like check my email. This is stuff like check the publishing schedules, make sure we're on track. There's stuff like that you do every day. It's a small task. You just do it real quick. The next
now, are these
list,
gummy vitamins?
Well, obviously they're gummy vitamins. I hate other vitamins. I hate
just
pills, and I hate the chalky ones. So it's gummies all the way down. Anyway, the next list is the front burner. You know, it's the stuff that I'm currently looking at, the most important stuff. So if I'm prepping a podcast that we need to record next week, that's on the front burner. If I'm fixing a big bug, that's on the front burner. Because I want to wake up, say, okay, what do I got to do? Those 2 projects are important today. I should get to them. And the last list is the oven list. So I'm going off the assumption that I'm running some sort of oven timer. Basically, these are scheduled items that happen every once in a while, like backing up image files, or running through a process, or checking email statistics, something that might happen every month or every other month or every year.
Checking our like Amazon S3 backups to make sure they're fine, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like I don't need to think about that on a daily basis, but much like an oven timer, when it goes off, I should probably see what's going on. I shouldn't forget about it.
So Todoist obviously has the today list that has the next 7 days, and then you can make filters to have next 2 weeks. So theoretically, you could just use the classic categorization approach with due dates. What made you feel that that wasn't good enough, that you needed to build this kind of kitchen system instead?
That would be because of my, and I presume many people's, complete inability to understand how long something might take, or how much time one has in a day. So I'd set all of these things due optimistically. They'd all have a due date of like, I'm going to do it all on Tuesday. These 10 tasks, I'll get them out of the way and the week's going to look great. But that's not how it works. What happens is I accomplish maybe 3 of them if I'm really lucky because something else important was going on.
Yeah.
And then I now have 7 things that are overdue in Todoist. Now I can take the time to reschedule them, but what tends to happen with me is that I just keep rescheduling the same things over and over because they're just not important. I've got a huge list of things that are overdue or due today, and I know by now that I'm not going to do them all.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so quick recap time. On a daily scale, make sure you're creating a daily plan for yourself each and every day that you work. Try to keep this limited to the tasks that you can actually get done, and be observant about anything you don't get done so you can become more accurate over time. Again, aim to bring your intention and your ability into alignment. Additionally, aim to tackle your most difficult task first and use time boxing if you need. On a longer term scale, experiment with techniques like the Kanban method to map out your projects and make sure you're always maintaining an accurate view of how each piece of them is going. And finally, find a way to prioritize what you're working on. And if the way you've been doing it in the past isn't working, then look for a method that does work, or invent one of your own. Martin's kitchen system is a great example of this, and it's also a great example of how taking a novel, creative approach to solving a problem can yield great results. And if you want to improve your ability to creatively solve problems, then you might want to take some of your free time, which you should have more of now if you're now planning effectively, and check out Brilliant. Brilliant is a learning resource that can help you to boost your problem-solving skills and your analytical abilities. Their library of more than 60 math, science, and computer science courses break down these complex subjects into bite-sized, interactive chunks that are both logically ordered and that focus on active learning. So whether you're going through their calculus in a nutshell course, digging into how neural networks work, or learning how to think scientifically, you'll be doing so actively, working with interactive puzzles, code writing challenges, and more. And their daily challenges feature takes this even further, giving you new challenges every single day so you make building your problem-solving skills a daily habit. So to get started for free, head on over to brilliant.org/thomasfrank and sign up. With their free plan, you get access to new daily challenges every single day. And if you're one of the first 200 people to sign up with that link down below, you're also going to get 20% off their annual premium subscription, which gets you access to that entire library of in-depth courses. Thanks as always for watching this video. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you got something helpful out of it. And if you did, definitely hit that like button to feed the YouTube algorithm with more tasty data. Also, if you did enjoy this, especially if you enjoyed the conversation I had with Martin in this video, then you might want to check out our podcast as well. I will have that link in the description down below, and you may be interested to know that our most recent episode was about working from home, so check that out if you want some additional tips. Beyond that, you can subscribe right there if you're not subscribed already to get new videos whenever they come out. Click right there to get one more video on this channel, and as always, you're going to want to smash your face into your phone screen because your fingers aren't as effective for clicking those boxes, so make sure you do that. Beyond that, go do whatever you want. I'm not your dad, but I will see you in the next video.